All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kubernetes Cluster API Azure, our weekly office hours meeting. We do this every week. We are a sub-project of SIG Cluster Lifecycle, and as I'm sure you're all aware, that means we follow their general rules of conduct, which boils down to everybody be kind to each other and try to use the raise hand feature in Zoom so we don't interrupt each other. This is not usually a problem, but something I'm supposed to say at the beginning. If you feel like adding your name to the attendees list, please do. That way people can place others and hook up later. If anybody is here for the first time and feels like introducing themselves, this is the point in the meeting where we do that. So I'll be quiet for 30 seconds and feel free to unmute and say hello.
Hey, nice to meet you all. My name is Dario Tranchitella. I'm from Italy and I'm working for the Kamaji project. And I added the topic about supporting externally managed control planes. So thank you so much.
Cool. I think that's our main deal today. Thanks, Dario. Welcome. All right. With that out of the way, let's just move right on to the supporting externally managed control planes. It's a PR that's been sitting out here for a while and we really failed to pick up on, but I see you're all over it. So take it away, Dario.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm really sorry for the background noise, but I'm from Italy and it's pretty late here, so I'm working from a cafe. Anyway, essentially, I'm the maintainer of an open source project named Kamaji. And with Kamaji, essentially, we are running the control plane as pods. So it means that we are not running in virtual machines, but we are leveraging the architecture of hosted control planes. So if you already work with Hypershift from Red Hat or from Cosmotron or with Cosmotron by Mirantis, essentially, we're doing the same. But our project is aiming to stick to the kubeadm bootstrap provider. So with that said, we had so many requests in implementing several cluster API providers, and other providers, other vendors, they started forking the cluster API project and created their own infrastructure provider. Instead, we are trying to be a community project, so finding a consensus and working with the other infrastructure providers like the AWS one, Equinix, KubeVirt, OpenSec, and so on and so forth. Oh, sorry for the background noise again. And essentially, I'm here because this guy, I don't remember the name. I'm really sorry. It's late here. Essentially, he started working on getting the support directly in the infrastructure provider from Azure. And the main problem that we always face is that the infrastructure providers for cluster API, they are taking for granted that the control plane is running in virtual machines. But that's not the case with Kamaji. And essentially, we work together. And that's the reason why I added also my review to this PR to get an upstream support directly in the Azure infrastructure provider. So just to give you some examples of what we did with OpenSec, example generic. Essentially in OpenSec, there is a way to disable the creation of load balancers, at least for the control plane. So our idea, the Rico's idea, was to add a new field to the cluster specification of the Azure cluster in order to stop the creation of the load balancer and wait for a manual or a control plane provider patch of the infrastructure cluster with the load balancer provided by the control plane provider, essentially. That's the way that we took for all the other infrastructure providers. We are doing that for OpenSec, for KubeVirt. So Rico scaffolded all the code. I did a quick review of the PR. I'm happy to get it through because I'm pretty confident with the code because I had a one-on-one session with Rico. But yeah, I'm just aiming to get a feedback from the community here.
Great. from my point of view, this is just sort of a failure on our team. We've been super busy, but that's not an excuse because this PR has been pretty coherent and we really haven't looked at it until just now. So apologies for that. But uh, also, I think based on our criteria, this is something we should move on because if there's a product and users who really want the feature, then it seems like a supportable thing. That's usually enough to tip us. So I guess I'm saying, yeah, we should. I feel like we should review this. I gave it a really quick once over this morning, and it all looks. It's fairly large, but it all looks pretty um, organized and coherent. I see what we're trying to do. Um, so from my point of view, yeah, I think this is something I'd like to review soon, and maybe we can get some traction on it. Does anybody else have any opinions? Has anyone else looked at this? I think that's a no. We've uh, we've been really heads down the last couple of weeks. Not that's a particular excuse, but all we've been doing is moving things to the community infrastructure, making sure our E2E test passed. So there hasn't been a lot of bandwidth to review stuff, but I think we're just about over that hump. So I feel like today and tomorrow we can probably get some eyes on this.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And keep in mind also, Matt, that essentially there are still some issues, well, not issues, but change requests that we need to address. And I'll try to push with Rico to get it done, or rather, I should have permission to push to his branch. So in the end, I'll try to ask for a review in the Slack channel, or maybe I don't know if you're already in the reviewers. I can do that with
I
GitHub.
am already in the reviewers, so I really should, yeah. Um, so and this is sufficient. You're saying there's not actually CAPI changes, but just changes in the provider is enough to get it working.
Yeah, exactly. Keep in mind that also I engage with the cluster API maintainers, and essentially, for cluster API, if you, I discovered that honestly, a few months ago. At the beginning, cluster API was just taking care of the worker nodes, so the control plane was optional. But with the control plane, essentially, there is also a support for the externally managed control plane. So there is there is a key in the control plane status sub resource. So essentially, cluster API should expect, or at least the infrastructure providers, they should be aware that the control plane could be externally managed. So essentially, it's a sort of feature. You can mark that as a bug, but let's call this as a sort of feature.
Right. Something we should have been aware of, but this catches us up with it, I guess.
Yeah, but
Cool.
no pressure at all. I mean, it's okay.
Yep. Um, yeah, I haven't dug into it deeply, or I probably have more meaningful comments. But at first glance, it seems like something we should already have been reviewing. So let's do that if we can. Anybody else have any comments or ideas? Mhm. All right. Anything else, Dario, you want to say about this?
No. Keep in mind that in the upcoming days, keep in mind also it's summer here, so I'm
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
busy with the family. It's not a big problem. But I try also to do a sort of smoke test, and I'll try to attach the outcome of that test. Unfortunately, it's really challenging trying to write an end-to-end test here, mostly because we will need a control plane provider. So it will be very, very cumbersome to set up the end-to-end because that will require creating a load balancer, maybe the control plane externally managed. So essentially, our idea here is to say, if you know what you're doing, essentially, you need to say the control plane is externally managed. And in such case, we are taking for granted that you know what you're doing, essentially. So we are
Yep.
always preserving the same behavior, and we are not introducing breaking changes.
Yep. Yeah, we finally this morning are running the CI tests on it, so this should tell us whether it breaks existing stuff, and it looks like it's fine so far. We expect the API obviously to differ, so that's why that's red.
I can take care of that. No worries. Yeah, thanks.
Well, no, I mean the API diff test is going to stay red because we're adding something to the API, but that's not actually a blocker. But yeah, I could see writing a end-to-end test for this would be really involved, but we should think about it. Okay. If there's nothing else,
Not from my
Okay,
side.
well,
Thanks a
right
lot.
on. Thanks for staying up late. We appreciate it. Next thing I put on here, just because this is on all of our minds, and I thought maybe we could put it on the recording so other people are aware, is we have been working very hard on moving our E2E jobs, and not just CapZ, but sort of the larger Azure Kubernetes world depends on CapZ largely for most of their end-to-end tests. So we've been working on migrating all that to community infrastructure. We have, 6 more days before the hard deadline, and I think we're in pretty good shape. Um, but I don't know, does anybody have any more specifics to offer, or what are we still waiting for? Or maybe this isn't the right time to summarize. But I feel like yesterday we merged a few things that essentially should allow us to move forward on most of the other jobs that we're waiting for this. So there's still work to do, um, but there's light at the end of the tunnel at this point. What do you guys think? Nawaz, is that a fair summary of where we're at? Do you know?
Oh, pretty much, man. Thanks for summarizing that. But I think I still need to look into the CAPZ jobs. I think there was one of them which I do not have a track on. Uh, and that is migrate. Yeah. Periodic cluster API provider, Azure, CAPI E2E main. I do not have a tab on that. And CAPI Azure API version upgrade main. Those two are the ones which I need to track and see if those are running green. But apart from that, I think most of them are looking pretty good.
Okay.
I can also update the doc.
I'm just putting something in here. Still a couple jobs to follow up on. Things looking much better. Although I probably jinxed it just by saying that, so we're not done yet. But anyway, this is also the time to say thanks everybody, and also John Yoon, obviously, and Jack Francis, who are not here right now. Everybody's put in like a ton of work on this. It's great to see it moving forward. Cool. Unless there's anything else on that, we can watch your milestone review, or are we too focused on infra moves? Because if it's up to me, we'll probably just skip it and end the meeting. But if someone is interested in flying over the PRs or milestones, we can certainly do that. I don't see anyone clamoring for that. So why don't we just call it good for today? Keep it short, and we'll see you all next week.
Cool.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciated that. Enjoy
Yeah,
your
thanks.
day.
Thanks, man.
You
Thank you,
too.
man.
See ya.
Bye bye. Ciao.